Do you know what the biggest impacts are to your local estuaries and bays? Interested in making a difference and having an impact on your local fish species you love? Today, Allan Berger is going to share the great stuff they have going in the San Antonio Bay area and how this might apply to you. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast, where we show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, the best resources and tools that you will discover while there, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Hey, I'm Dave, host of the Wet Fly Swing podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a young kid. I grew up around a fly shop and have created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in the country. I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers than just about any show in the world. Today, you will learn the 3 things you can do today to have an impact for redfish and for your local fish species in your local waters. Plus, we throw in a few fishing tips along the way. All right, let's quit messing around and jump into it with Allan Berger from sabaypartnership.org. How you doing, Allan?
I'm doing great, Dave.
Thanks for putting some time together to talk about an important topic. We've been doing a lot of episodes around in all sorts of different, areas and regions and different conservation topics. And I think what we're learning is there's a lot of good stuff going on out there, even though there's still some challenges. And I want to learn about the bay that you are focused on in your group. But before we get there, let's bring it back real quick on fishing. Let's start with fishing, because I know you do some fishing out there. How did you what's your first memory of fishing? How did you get into it?
Fishing with my dad in 1958 or 60. I actually grew up in Port O'Connor, so I've been fishing around here a long time.
Okay, so you. And remind us again the town that you're in now.
I live in Port O'Connor, which is on Espiritu Santo Bay and Matagorda Bay, and our organization is associated with the San Antonio Bay system, which includes Espiritu Santo Bay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's not. And we're going to talk a little more about the area, but maybe start there on. We're going to talk about some of the important topics and projects you guys are working on, but give us a rundown on that area. Like, what does the San Antonio Bay Partnership cover? What is kind of your region?
It is the San Antonio Bay Guadalupe estuary, which is the bay system that's fed by the Guadalupe and San Antonio rivers that hit the bay around Seadrift. And the bay system stretches from the Aransas Refuge just west of Seadrift all the way to past Cavallo, just east of Port O'Connor. And it's all the marshland behind Matagorda Island is a big piece of that.
Yeah, right. Matagorda Island is this long kind of rectangular. I mean, I guess talk about that. Is that all a natural system, that island that goes in front, or how is it? Or is that kind of like a levee or something like that?
The island it's a barrier island that and it is now all managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife's Aransas National Refuge, and by Texas Parks and Wildlife. They have a wildlife management area that's on the northern end of the island. So it's all protected land, and on the backside of the island is a lot of extensive saltwater marsh and lake systems that redfish and trout love. So as do fishermen. So
that's right. And so where is that the fishing they do in relation to kind of what you're talking about here around Port O'Connor and Seadrift?
Well, they probably fish. I don't know exactly where they fish, but they're out of Seadrift, and so they have to fish all of that marsh that's on the bay side, on the mainland side of the bay. And I'm sure they also fish the island complexes on the backside of the island, backside of Matagorda Island. So,
yeah, you mentioned a couple of it. Matagorda Bay is one. You got San Antonio Bay, and there's a bunch. I mean, there's a lot of water in there. It looks like there's a lot of water to fish.
There is. There's plenty to fish. If you kind of trace the bay shoreline in the San Antonio Bay system, it's at least 150 miles of shoreline. In the San Antonio Bay system. And that doesn't include the lake shorelines and the bayous and everything else. That's just kind of the raw shoreline exposed to the bay system. So it's plenty of water, and there's lots of opportunities to kind of get back in the backwaters. And if you're a fly fisherman, pole around and look for them. So
that's it. And I'm just looking at this, and again, I'm a newbie to this area, so I'm learning. But So it look, whatever you call it, a reef, an island, the long area, it looks perfectly, almost like a half, kind of a crescent. I mean, it looks really smooth. Is that historically, is that all a natural kind of island, or has there been some stuff that's been kind of solidified to keep things, the ocean, things like that from crashing in?
No, it's a natural island. It's a sand dunes on the high part of it, and probably 40 miles of Gulf shoreline, and then back behind that you have 40 miles of saltwater marsh with cordgrass and mangroves and bayous, and it's mostly shallow. I mean the backwater, the lakes are from 6 inches to maybe a couple of feet. It's a great foraging area for redfish. I'm primarily a redfish fisherman.
Yeah, that's great.
And so
that's great.
And so I'm primarily a kayak fisherman. So
nice.
I generally paddle around looking for them.
Sure.
And fish catch them when you see them. So
this is awesome. No, this is really cool. I love what, we're kind of going into, obviously I'm going into a new place and, it's really exciting because, I mean, where you are, I mean, you're not that far from Mexico, right? You're way down on the south. So, I mean, you're below south of San Antonio, right? You're way down there.
Yeah, no, we are just the best description is mid Texas coast. We're about halfway between Corpus and Galveston.
Galveston, yeah.
The mid coast bays are essentially Matagorda Bay, San Antonio Bay, and Aransas bays are kind of considered mid coast, and we're in Puerto O'Connor's kind of right in the middle of that.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, and then you have San Antonio north of you got Houston. If you go a ways, right? That's not that's a ways out to the east.
Yeah, it's about 140 miles up the coast from Puerto O'Connor.
Yeah, not too far. And then of course Dallas, and I'm getting all my Texas is a really cool state. I mean, we've been doing some episodes in there and around there and stuff, and so it is exciting to finally get a chance to dig into this. So okay, well let's talk about. We've got a little bit of the geography going here, but let's talk about the partnership that you're involved with. What what's the focus? Maybe highlight what you do, what you all do there.
The San Antonio Bay Partnership we call ourselves a regional nonprofit. Our mission is the protection of the San Antonio Bay Guadalupe estuary, and which is essentially San Antonio and Espiritu Santo Bay. But our activities are kind of mid coast wide. In the broad sense, it's just protection of it. Our programs include environmental education for local students and for kids that live on the watershed that feeds the bay. We also have programs that are directly related to picking up stuff on the bays. The first thing we probably started doing was the abandoned crab trap removal program, where derelict traps are dotted around the bays, and we organize volunteers to go pick them up during the time of year when the crabbing season is closed, and then we also have a shorelines cleanup event. Most of our shorelines are very remote. They're not accessible from the roads. You have to have a boat to get to them, and so the only way you can pick up trash is with a boat. And so we organize volunteer activities to go to try to clean up as much of that 150 miles as we can. And we do that each September. We have programs where we also advocate for freshwater inflows to our bay systems. That is critical to keeping them healthy and productive. So we advocate for that and have programs trying to figure out ways to ensure that the bay gets a fair share of the freshwater.
Gotcha.
And then the other key part of our program, we run a sea turtle rescue program. This part of the bay system, the bays are shallow, and so during cold weather events during the winter, mostly green sea turtles get cold stunned. The water gets too cold, and they can't survive. And they're an endangered species, and so we organize volunteers to go out and rescue those turtles during cold stranding events. And they go to rehab facilities to warm up, and they get released after that. And so that's the other conservation piece of our efforts as well.
It's amazing. Yeah, sounds like you're doing some really important work here out there. So, and talk about that a little bit on the freshwater inflow, because I'm thinking, you've got this, you got the bay, which is obviously on the other side of the ocean, and talk about what the mixing of, you've got salt, you've got the estuary, you've got freshwater. Why is the freshwater so critical to, say, a redfish or other species?
The bay salinity. I mean, the ocean salinities are what, 35,000 parts
per million, or
parts per thousand, I guess.
Per thousand. Parts per
35,000
thousand, right?
Of salinity, and then the bay systems are generally, because the rivers are dumping in and the rain on the shoreline are 20,000 or so, or even if you get up the mouth of the river, it's fresh. And a lot of the fish that use the bay system, you use redfish for example, they spawn essentially in the Gulf passes, and the larvae are carried back into these shallow protected marshes for them to develop. And so the bay system needs the freshwater inflows. They need to be less than 20,000 parts per million, parts per thousand, 20,000 instead of 35 for them to thrive. Whether it's shrimp or crabs or redfish, they all need this salinity gradient from the river to the bay to do their thing.
Oh wow!
And so otherwise, I mean, there are other systems that are, the Laguna Madre, for example, in South Texas, is a hypersaline solution, hypersaline bay, and so it is saltier than the ocean, but the mid-coast bays are not. They're different than that, and their natural productive place is to be fresher than the ocean. And so for them to be as productive as they are, they need the rivers to continue giving a level of fresh water into the bay system to keep them productive.
I see. And let's take it to redfish, because that will be the fish, one of the species that we're really hoping to fish for out there when we get out there. But talk a little bit about the kind of the life history of that fish. Where is it spawning? Where is it moving? Like, maybe let's start with the spawning. So where is that fish spawning in the area?
Well, I have to give you a caveat. I'm not a fish biologist.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what I think I know.
You know more than I do, so this is, anything you say will be good.
The redfish spawn in the Gulf passes, like Pass Cavallo as an example. Where the big redfish are running in the surf during the fall, they spawn there, and the tides carry those larvae into the bay system.
Oh wow!
Into the marshes and lakes, etc. And the redfish will stay in that bay system for 3 to 5 years while they grow up to up to around these about 28 inches to 30, which is the legal limit to catch a fish in the bay. And when they get that mature, they migrate back out to the Gulf to continue the cycle. But the juveniles, which are in the bay systems, are what I fish for up in the shallow water when up there foraging, and they are up to 28, 30 inches big in the bay system. If you fish the Gulf jetties and the Gulf surf, you catch them 50 inches, but the ones in the bay system are essentially juveniles. I think 3 to 5 years to get that big, and then they migrate back out and continue the cycle. And so that connection to the Gulf and the salt and the fresh water from the bay system is essential to keeping these systems productive. And there's similar cycles for crabs and shrimp. All those things need a healthy bay system that is fresher than what the Gulf is. The challenges for any is that there's increasing demand for fresh water by population growth, increasing demand for fresh water by industrial growth, changes in climate that make this area drier than it maybe used to be. So all those things are challenges to the bay. And so how we as a civilization manage that is important to keep our bays healthy and productive. We just got to figure out how to do that.
How to do it. I would guess that you guys are doing a pretty good job, just because in the title of your name, the partnership, I think is probably an important thing. We've talked to a number of groups around the country, and I think that, whether it's in Idaho, in the Henry's Fork or any of these areas, it feels like the success comes with the partnerships. You're like working with everybody, not getting too political and just saying, hey, we all want this. We all want a healthy ecosystem. We all want redfish. What's been your success, do you think, in your area? Is that part of it where you guys are willing to kind of talk to everybody and bring everybody to the table, or how have you guys been successful?
Well, that's certainly the model, Dave. These problems aren't solved by adversarial confrontations. They're solved by people who, I have friends who, I made my living in the oil industry, so I know the pressures that we're all under to do that. But that doesn't mean that I can't and aren't a conservationist, because I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
But our goal is to work with industry, is to work with the river authorities, to work with the citizens, the conservation groups like the Coastal Conservation Association, is to work we all should have a common goal to protect these systems. We do it for ourselves, we do it for our kids, our grandkids. And so I think it's like trying to espouse that common goal and protect the bay system is part of what we do. And we try to organize the people to actually go pick up the trash, and we talk to the river authorities about trying to help us figure out ways to make sure the bay gets the water it needs. So it's a big, complex problem, but we all have to do it together.
Yeah, definitely. No, and that's awesome to hear. And part of it, and again, water, right? You go back to that. The water is everywhere. You hear about these droughts. We've talked to people up in the Northeast and all over the country, really. I think climate change, we're seeing some changes in rainfall and stuff. So I would imagine down in your area, it's especially critical because it's already fairly dry down there. How does that look? I mean, let's start with the redfish first. How are they doing right now? You've talked about some of the impacts, but are you seeing ups and downs in the populations? Are you feeling pretty good about where they are at?
I think my sense that the redfish population is doing quite well. It seems to be healthy. I've had 2 good years of fishing. We had a big winter freeze, was in 2021, I guess it was. That we had a big fish kill in the bays. When it gets really cold here for an extended period, like a week long, we have fish kills. And so we had an extended fish kill. I think it was in 2021. The trout population at the time was hit pretty hard from that, and the redfish as well. But I've had 2 good fishing years since then, and the trout population, with some help from Parks and Wildlife, changed some of the fishing regulations to protect the species for a while. They reduced the limits, etc., and they're considering extending some of those. But the fishing has been for redfish has been very good. So exactly how Mother Nature can do a pretty good job taking care of itself.
Yeah. That's right.
Yes, we have to give it some room, but the bays can be pretty resilient if we treat them with care. So.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I agree. I think that's part of the secret is giving the bay or the natural area just more room. To kind of, because it's good at what it does. Probably a lot better than we are, right, at fixing things.
Oh, I think that's right. It's hard to restore something once you've screwed it up. It's much easier to protect it in its more natural state than to try to rebuild it after you screwed it up.
Dreaming of battling a giant rainbow trout in Alaska's untouched rivers? Turn that dream into a reality with FishHound Expeditions. Immerse yourself in the heart of Alaska, where epic landscapes and legendary fish await. Visit fishhoundexpeditions.com and mention this podcast to begin your adventure. FishHound Expeditions, your gateway to the ultimate Alaskan fishing experience. Skwala fly fishing, combining advanced materials with fishing-focused purpose-built design. Skwala waders, jackets, shirts, pants, and insulation are made for us. To help Wet Fly Swing listeners right now, Skwala is offering a 10% discount on your next order. Just visit skwalafishing.com and use the coupon code WetFlySwing10 at checkout. That's Skwala, SKWALA. Gear for us, the serious angler. Well, this is cool. So I'm looking down, and you mentioned Sea Drift, which is right in San Antonio Bay. Talk about the area a little bit. Like if somebody hasn't ever been there and they're going to be going into that area, what makes it? I mean, there's a national wildlife refuge down in that area. What makes it so special? Like if you haven't been there.
Well, yeah, I think the thing that's unique in the mid Texas coast is that the Barrier Island Matagorda is undeveloped. It's 40 miles of refuge, and so there is no development on the other side. If you go to Galveston, which you have the city of Galveston's on the Barrier Island. If you go south to Padre Island, there's lots of development on Padre Island too. So Matagorda Island is a undeveloped 40-mile chain. And so what's unique about it is that it's just that.
Wow.
There's no buildings or a little bit of wildlife management infrastructure that the refuge uses and the Texas Parks and Wildlife people use, but it's essentially undeveloped. So when you leave Seadrift to go across the bay, you're going into, I like to think of it as our wilderness. We don't have forest. We don't have big rivers, like that with the white water in them. We have a Morse Bay system that is essentially protected and can provide an avenue for those who like to get out in nature.
Wow, that sounds perfect. I think that's that's definitely it. It's that literally you're in an area where you can go and probably find a lot of natural areas without a large population, even though you have like on the map, San Antonio is north of you a little ways. And, it seems like, there's some population obviously, but you're in this area that's definitely remote. It feels like it's remote, it's natural. And it seems like maybe that's what separates you.
Well, it is, but everybody lives in Houston and San Antonio, they want to come here to play. They want to come here to fish. Usually. Gotcha. So it's not like it's nobody around.
Yeah. Right.
But our challenge is doing that in a responsible way. And so we're we're not loving it. We shouldn't love it to death, I guess is the point. Yeah. We want to respect the bay. If we respect the bay and take care of it, it will be good to us.
Gotcha.
We risk loving it to death.
Okay. All right. Perfect. And so you mentioned a few things, and again, let's keep it on the redfish since that's the species we're kind of thinking about here. You mentioned water. What are the top kind of conservation issues that you're thinking about with redfish? Is kind of water number one, or give us the kind of a top few things you're thinking about?
Interesting question, because a lot of our programs we don't essentially gear toward a species to protect.
Right.
We find a system.
Sure.
So I think the things that you worry about for the redfish are protecting seagrasses, protecting oyster reefs. It's the natural infrastructure of the bays, and we spent the last 100 years dredging oyster shell from the bays, and we're at a point where oyster reefs are endangered, and oystering is becoming increasingly difficult to make a living doing. So we need to address oyster protection, oyster restoration, seagrass protection is critical. And then the other thing that had happened to us, I guess, as a result of this freeze, like 3 years ago, we lost a lot of our natural vegetation in the basis, in the marsh. It was in this area around Port O'Connor in particular, it was mostly mangrove, and it froze. So. Wow. And so what I worry about is that a major storm event now it's not as protected with the dead mangroves don't protect the structure like the live mangrove did. And so you worry about erosion from a storm event as being an issue. But I bet the big things in the bay, I think, are oysters, seagrasses, and then making sure trying to make sure we don't have a big erosion. And not that we can keep a storm from coming, but we need a couple of years of good luck to let the mangroves reestablish themselves, and then Mother Nature can kind of be back in control.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So yeah, you guys occasionally can get some big storms down there. What's a big storm look like in that area?
Well, the last one was Hurricane Harvey, and I guess probably been 5 years ago now, that hit Rockport, which is just south of here, and it's 140 mile an hour winds and tons of rain and a tide that's probably 12 to 15 feet. So it's
Wow.
pretty devastating to these
Yeah.
areas, and so that's and a lot of the structures wash away, and so they are essentially very devastating when they attack. But we get Harvey was the last one in 5 years ago, I guess is the.
Okay, Harvey. Yeah, that's the one. So you have the hurricane and
It hung around, and Harvey did a lot of its damage by raining inland, and it essentially drowned Houston.
oh wow.
With like, I don't know, 40 inches of rain or some
Wow.
ungodly
How much? 40 inches of rain, and what period of time did it rain 40?
Oh, several days.
Wow.
Don't hold me to those numbers. But
but a lot.
Houston was inundated with rain.
Not 4 inches, which is a lot of rain. 40 inches.
No, but 40. Yeah, I don't remember the numbers, but it was a lot.
Sure.
But on the coast, it was the wind and tides that had that. Then it went inland and dumped all the water and flooded streets, etc. But the coast sees tidal floods and 10-foot tides. My house is 10 foot above sea level, and so a 15-foot surge is not good news. And so that's what you see. We spend from August through October watching the weather, trying to figure out what to do. So
right. Wow. I mean, it seems like these areas. For me, I'm like a little a little scared. I think it's kind of interesting because I'm in an area that doesn't have hurricanes.
Right.
Doesn't have a lot. I mean, our worst thing is, as far as natural, we don't have a lot. So I think about that. What is that like when you live in an area you were there when Hurricane Harvey came through? What's like, how does that feel?
Well, actually, I was out of town.
Oh, wow.
I was hiking in the mountains at the time.
Oh, man.
We came out of the mountains and listened to the news, and if we would have been home, we would have been evacuating.
Yeah, right.
But it took us a week to get back into town. But people watch the news. The newer houses are designed to withstand some of the winds.
Gotcha.
And are elevated above to protect against storms. And so the newer places are much better. The older stuff blows away and gets replaced after the storm. But it's just you just pay attention to the weather, and you have insurance, and you try to do as best you can. But it's one of the prices you pay for living in paradise, I guess. That's the way I would do it.
That's right. That's a good way to put it, because, and actually we do have, we have wildfires and stuff. So there is some things we have, but no, that's a good way to put it. You guys are in paradise, and you know what? There's things that go with that. It's not all good. So, okay. So that's a little bit on, kind of what we're talking about here. You mentioned it, seagrass, oyster reef. So I'm guessing the seagrass is kind of for the juvenile. A lot of that is juvenile rearing, but there's probably a lot. Is that the biggest thing the seagrass is important for? Is that also foraging, all that stuff?
Well, it's for foraging. A lot of the things that redfish and other species eat are back in that grass, whether it's small shrimp or grass shrimp, and the minnows and the mullets and stuff that are all part of the diet of the big fish are back in that fish trying to hide. So right. It's the nursery. It is essentially the nursery for the growing game fish, and their foraging areas are back in these seagrass beds and around oyster reefs and structure. Yeah. So
that's right. And how do you go about protecting those seagrass beds?
Protecting the quality of the water, protecting the structure that's around them, that that it doesn't erode away and become open water and too deep. Protecting them from boat props. One of the big issues, and these are shallow systems, and so one of the big issues is how fishermen behave and whether or not they are operating their boats in a way that protect the seagrasses. Is important. The prop scores can take a long time to heal. If you have a boat run through and cut up a 6-8 inch cut of through the seagrass, it can take a long time to heal, and it creates a channel that erodes.
Right.
It creates turbidity in the water, which the grasses need sunlight to grow.
Yep.
So it's
gotcha.
So it's in 30. I I guess 40 years ago here, there was a lot of commercial fishermen, and the pressure on the bay was from the commercial fishermen. Well, today there's not all the commercial fish now, or from all the fishing now is mostly from recreational fishermen. So we have to mind our manners and protect the bay. We can't look toward blaming someone else. We're the biggest impact on the bays is probably recreational fishermen.
Wow.
And so it's our responsibility to be responsible for recreational fishing.
Yeah. And that's something, the boat prop. So do you think if somebody's out there for the first time or they're running a boat, is it easy to avoid going through the seagrass with the props and stuff? Or is that the recommendation is just stay out of it if you can, or is it hard to stay out of it?
No, well, you can't stay out. They're wanting to go fish in these places. The first thing is to have a boat that's designed to run shallow. And so the technology on new boats now is much better. These boats can run in very shallow water without uprooting it.
Gotcha.
And so it's knowing what your boat is capable of and operating it accordingly. And they're obviously doing it. There's times of year when the tides are very low that you probably shouldn't be back in some of these places. And there's times of year when the tides are higher and there's no issues. So you just need to know your boat and know what you're capable of and try to operate it in a way that minimizes the impact on the grass systems.
There you go.
And it is good that the people like Bay Flats Lodge know all of that, and they operate, they work with their guides to try to protect the bay systems. I mean, that the guides can be outstanding instructors and
educators, right, and all that,
and role models, educators for the general public, because they make their living off that bay system, and they want to protect it.
Yeah, and that's how we connected. When I asked Murray, I said, "Hey, we're getting this going. Who should I talk to?" And he pointed me to you guys, right? He's like, "Yeah, talk to them." And so it's this cool relationship, right? They understand that, and so if somebody's listening right now, and they want to take an action, maybe they're in your area nearby, what would be that for that person? What would be the thing you would tell them they can do to kind of? Because sometimes it feels like there's nothing we can do. Climate change, all this stuff is so big. It feels like, oh man, what can I do? I'm just a person. What would you tell that person?
Well, if they live nearby, sign up to come help me pick up crab traps in February. We're always boat short. We need 50 or 60 boats to go out during this week, and so bring your boat, bring your crew, and come help me look for derelict crab traps.
There you go. That's awesome. And so when is that typically? That in February?
It's the close 10 days in February, and this year it is February the 17th for 10 days.
Okay, 17th. And just for people in the future, if it's it's 2024 now, so if they listen now, they can do that February 17th. But it'll be typically if it's in the future, it will be around in February typically. Yeah,
I think it's the third Friday each February for 10 days.
Oh, okay.
And during that period, all traps need to be either the crabbers are running, commercial crabbers are running, or recreational crab fishermen are putting out. They need to be out of the water, and if they're not out of the water, they're assumed to be derelict and are picked up by volunteers.
Oh wow!
And so that's the effort. And so, like I said, we talked about 150 miles of shoreline, and a lot. I don't know how many square miles of bases, but we try to systematically search the bay system, looking for derelict traps and picking them up. And we document their location and what's in them, and who owns them.
Oh wow! Wow, there you go. So this is good.
So what I guess when we started doing that, we've been picking up the abandoned crab traps for 20 years almost, but there was no science about, well, why are there so many of them, and where are they?
Yeah, and why are they bad, and why are they so bad? Yeah. And
so we've been trying to bring a little bit of science to that. So we ask our volunteers to use some software things on their phone to help us tell us where they are and what's in it, and that helps us understand how it got there. So that's one thing a person that lives in this area can do. The second thing is, if you can't come help us, we always can use the money to help clean up the bay. So go into San Antonio Bay Partnership and become a member or give us a little bit of help financially.
Perfect. Love that. Awesome. So people can go there right now, sabaypartnership.org, and they can literally just sign up and donate whatever they can to support what you have going. And the cool thing is that people around the country, around the world can also do that, right? This is an easy thing. And yes. I feel like redfish is one of those species, but there's probably a lot of species that are going to benefit from what you guys are doing down there, right?
Yeah, the crab traps in particular, I guess the term that we use is ghost fishing. If a trap is in the water, even if it's not, a commercial crabber or a crabber baits it until it attracts the trap crabs, right? Well, if things crawl in, if the trap is just floating around not being managed by fishermen, things continue to crawl in, they die, and they continue to set, so it becomes self-baiting. And so it continues to trap crabs and fish. I have a picture of a small 12-inch redfish in a trap, in an abandoned trap. And we occasionally find sea turtles and diamondback terrapins in the traps. And so that's what happens when they're in the water. But even on the shore, when they're blown up on the shore, a lot of the traps are wind blown up to the shoreline. We have pulled birds out of the traps that are on the shore. They crawl into the trap looking for to eat on something that's in the trap, and then they can't get out. So the ghost fishing is real, and it's a significant thing, and it's killing the things that we, the crabbers are trying to catch the crabs as a commercial product. Well, if the derelict trap is harming them, is working on their harvest, and the same for the crabs. And they're also important for the redfish food chain. They eat redfish and drum love eating crabs. So that's one thing. In addition, they're also litter to the bays, and they're also navigation hazards. Props run into them and get tangled, and they're ugly litter. The floats are plastic, and so there's all kind of reasons to get them out.
Yeah, they're not good. Yeah. Well, how do you know whose they are?
Well, the commercial crabbers, they're required to tag them they label them. They have to there's certain size and designs specified by state regulations, and the crabbers all do that. So they have to have an equipment tag to know whose it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And how would a crabber, like you got a derelict crab, say it's a commercial crab, how would they lose it? Why would that commercial, why would it be sitting out there floating on its own?
Well, they're dropped on the bottom and with a 8-inch white plastic white styrofoam float, but they move. The wind and waves will move them. And about half of the crab traps we pick up have been blown to shore. So the crabber runs them 100 yards off the shoreline, and then a windstorm comes through. Cold front north will blow them up to the shoreline. And a high tide and a wind event blows them up. So about half of them seem to be the result of a wind event that blows them out there. At about a quarter of them are just the crabber. They're left in the open water. The crabber either didn't find them or ran out of time, or I don't exactly know why he didn't pick them up. He's certainly incentivized to pick it up.
Is he?
He's got to replace it if he loses it.
Right. That's the thing. Yeah, you'd think they would want to not lose these things, but I guess stuff happens.
Yeah, and that's so. But the stuff happens, and then another quarter of them are kind of back in shallow water with a low tide in February. He may have wanted to pick it up, but he couldn't get his boat back here to pick it up. So it's hard to know exactly. That's one of the learnings that has come from knowing where we find these things. We find the crab. We've been able to address our activities toward working with the crabbers to try to get them to pick up the ones that they put in open water, and to figure out a way to retrieve the ones that are blown to shore. That's kind of our new challenge, is how to recover those after a storm event instead of waiting till February to pick them up.
Well, one thing, and again, I'm probably not, I would think of it as that you could do some sort of GPS tracking on them. that might be too expensive, but is that something people have thought about doing where they can just know exactly where they are?
Well, you might, but this is a pretty low tech operation, and it's there's probably ways you can do that, but it's hard to imagine that it would be
cost
that
effective
would
and
be
stuff. Yeah.
cost effective for the crabber doing that.
Right.
Maybe things you can do, but they've been crabbing this way now for probably a number of years,
Okay.
and
I
so
just think
figuring out.
because I think of like the Apple AirTag, right? I mean, it's like the play thing. Like they lost my luggage last year, so I bought a $25 Apple AirTag, and now I literally know exactly where my bag is at all
Right.
times, and it costs $25. So I'm guessing that, yeah, like you said, this stuff adds up, especially if you got 50 crab traps and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like I said, we pick up around 1,000 traps every year.
Oh wow,
Okay,
1,000.
so there's not just one or two,
It's a lot, right?
but there's probably 30 crabbers, recreational crabbers. I mean, commercial crabbers in the county, and they have up to 600 traps. So there's a lot of traps in the bay. so it's not just a problem in the Texas coast. It's true in Louisiana. It's true for lobster traps in the Northeast. It's a consequence of commercial fishing operations, and we all like to eat crabs, and so.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
what kind of crabs are these down there?
they're blue crabs. Blue crab is mostly,
Yeah.
and then the other species is stone crabs, and they harvest the big pinchers from the stone crabs, not the
Wow.
crab itself.
Wow.
So,
what is the first thing you do in the morning? For me, heating up a kettle and pouring it over Angler's coffee is what starts my day. Angler's Coffee roasts some of the best coffee on the market, and every bag you purchase supports the fish species we love. Joe at Anglers also roasts and ships all Angler's coffee within 48 hours to assure freshness. My favorite blend right now is the Woolies blend. Joe produces this dark roast blend that is perfect every morning just for me. Anglers has a blend for every taste, a roast sampler, and pretty much any way you want to brew the coffee, they've got you covered. If you want to assure you're supporting fish and great coffee, then now is the time to test out Anglers for yourself. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/anglers right now and check it out. That's Anglers, ANGLERS, to make a change today. You guys have a report card. I'm not sure if that's something you're involved with, but can you talk about that a little bit? What does the report card do? Is this like an annual thing?
no, the report card is a result of a effort by the Hart Research Institute to essentially try to tell the public and decision makers about the bay system the issues and status of the bay systems. And the first one that has been done for the San Antonio Bay System was just done in 2023 by Hart. And so we I guess we talked to them about our issues and concerns, and so we work with them, but it's their effort, and we were involved in whether or not their conclusions made sense. But they essentially looked at, if you opened up the card, looked at it, they try to grade the seagrasses, they try to grade oysters, and they grade game fish. They try to, not on a scale, they didn't use a scale of of A's, B's, C's, and D's. It was healthy to unhealthy with kind of a sliding scale. And the purpose is just try to help people understand what the issues are so we can focus on
work together
to get them addressed. And I hope that they got the money from the state general land office and a grant to do that program for the for the mid-coast bay systems, and I hope they're able to repeat that. I think it's a great tool, and it certainly has been useful to us to talk about various issues as well. So I hope they repeat it. But that's we collect a lot of data on the bay systems in terms of how the fish are doing, et cetera, and how the birds around the thing are doing. Having that data available and to the general public is always much more difficult. And so the scientists may see all of this stuff, but the public generally doesn't get to see it very often. It's kind of back in the shadows. And so the report card brings it out in a way that I hope makes the discussion of bay health a much more public discussion. And is where you can generate public support to do the things to protect it.
Love it. Yeah, it's educate. Again, I think a big part of what you do too is Yeah, it's the education for everybody, because I think a lot of these issues, whether it's like keep them wet or anything like that, it's not necessarily like, I'm sure the report card isn't about saying how bad or like how terrible some group's doing. It's more about like letting people know. Some people have no idea, right, about this water thing. They have no idea that the bay needs this fresh water, and just letting some of the general public know probably can go a long ways to like maybe like voting for the right things. Is that kind of where you guys head with this?
Well, we don't try to be political about it, but we try to make sure that the decision makers understand the impacts of decisions that they make, and all these things have trade-offs. So the demand on freshwater is being driven by people moving down here and wanting water to their to their house.
Yard. Yeah.
Yeah. And so some of it is we have to understand the decisions that we all make as individuals, but we also make decisions collectively. In terms of how the policies that we set, and the regulations that we ask our regulators to do, and the freshwater in getting up and going someplace else on its own, somebody is wanting it, whether it's individuals or subdivisions of development of people wanting to move, or an industry that wants to do it and bring jobs. I mean, all those things are good uses of freshwater, but our goal isn't to stop them. Our goal is to make sure some of it is that we're doing the rationing of that limited resource in a way that maximizes the health of the bay as well. So.
Nice. Love it. Love it. And I was thinking about, again, Texas is a large state. There's all sorts of great things and great cities and things like that. I go back to this. I can't remember where I heard this, but the don't mess with Texas. Do you, I don't know if you know how that started. Do you remember that? You may have heard of that, but it was kind of I think it was a county program that started it.
It was a state. I don't know how it started, but it was ultimately a statewide anti-litter program. But it's no longer active.
Oh, it's not active, right. But it got the whole thing going. The marketing was great on it because it got all of Texans behind. Like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, so do you remember that? So maybe give us some insight. Were you there when that program was going?
Are you asking how old am I, Dave? Is that what you're asking?
Hey, no. I think we're no, but I'm just curious if I don't even know. I mean, it was sometime a while back, but now, I mean, you think of don't. I think most people when they hear "don't mess with Texas," more like, hey, this is Texas. This is our place. We do our own thing, right? You kind of got that. It's like this part of Texas, but yeah, you remember that when it was kind of a litter patrol thing.
Yes, I do, and it was a very effective and award-winning, apparently, educational program to reduce state litter, and I am trying to advocate to reinstate that litter anti-litter campaign. Now, exactly how we do that, but it was very effective, and I think it's something that Texans are very proud of that campaign and will be very supportive of it. But I forget what state agency was doing that, but I would love to see it be reinstated statewide.
Yeah, because it worked, right? The litter was really bad at some point, but the campaign really worked to get litter off the roads.
Yeah, that's my impression. I haven't seen the statistics of that,
sure.
But it was certainly well received by the public, and one hopes that it did a job. And I don't exactly what the statistics on litter are. I can't tell you, but
you could probably see it. You could probably see it, right? You could probably even where I live. I mean, you notice it when there's a lot of graffiti, when there's a lot of litter, when there's a lot of stuff. You just see it around you.
Well, you see it on the highway.
Yeah,
but and I think the impetus to our shorelines cleanup event that may have been the impetus. When I was talking to the Bayfast Lodge people, they've been very supportive of this program and are doing lots of things themselves. The impetus for starting that thing here was I fish a lot of these shorelines, and it is very discouraging to fish this natural shoreline and see plastic bottles floating alongside the shoreline grass. It's not as it should be. You want to see a redfish tail, not a plastic bottle.
No.
And so this is something we can do. We can improve on this. And so we started that campaign. And one of the things in starting it, we wanted to identify what the litter was. It's kind of like the crab traps, so that we could maybe focus our educational activities on the problem. instead of just waving our hands and say litter is bad, we can point toward, hey, we picked up 2,000 water bottles last Saturday, or drink bottles. Where do you think they came from?
Right.
They're not, I think mostly are blowing off of people's boats.
No kidding.
That's my impression when you look at them and how clean they are.
Right. Is this something where like the kick plastic sort of thing, like maybe go to a metal bottle instead of plastic, and that would reduce?
Yes. In my humble opinion, that we should be asking any recreational fisherman to not take plastic water bottles on the boat with them. Take a metal water bottle.
Take a metal. That's an easy thing to do. Yeah.
But it is easy to do. It's easy, but that it doesn't mean humans are pretty lazy. We're pretty lazy.
especially I think the U.S. right? U.S. folks are known for a lot of waste, and I think that's one of our things we got to get better at.
Well, that's kind of the learnings extracted from our shoreline. The litter is there because we are not as good at managing that as we could be, and so things you can do, like if you don't take it on your boat, you can't blow off.
Yeah. If
you do take it on your boat, secure it.
Right.
And if you see one floating around, pick it up.
Yeah.
I mean, those. If ever a fisherman did that, the bay would be cleaner in 6 weeks.
That's actually a good tip. That's actually one, you've said a ton of great stuff, but that's a general tip for everybody. Think of it. You're in your home water, wherever you are. Like, I've passed up a lot of stuff and not picked it up, but that's something really easy. Like, I could pick up one bottle or 10 bottles, right? It's like, if everybody did that, think of the change.
Agree. Leave it cleaner.
Yeah. Leave it cleaner.
If a can blows off in your front yard at your house, people pick it up.
Yeah, that's right.
To me, the bay is my front yard.
Right.
And so if people would think of it that way, they would respect the bay more than what we do. So it's just
and that's probably going back to the don't mess with Texas. That's probably how I'm thinking that's how that started, right? People were realizing, hey, this is our place. We don't want to leave garbage everywhere. This is our home, like on the highways. These are our highways, right? Is that kind of how it works?
Yes. So and we're proud of them. We're proud of the outdoor things that the state offers. And so quit screwing it up. Don't mess with us.
So what do you think about this from a marketing? So this is your tagline for the shoreline. So don't mess with our shoreline. What about that one?
You may be onto something, Dave.
Yeah. The best, because it evolved. You remember, again, I don't want to belabor this, but I think this is really interesting because it is still don't mess with Texas, at least from people like me and outside of Texas. It seems like that's still the tagline for Texas. Like everything's bigger. It's Texas. You guys do everything bigger and better. How did it evolve into this more of a don't mess with Texas, like don't mess with us sort of thing? Or did it evolve outside of the environmental stuff?
Oh yeah, I'm probably sure it did. Yeah. We're individualistic in this state. And so don't mess with us is just kind of a mantra.
That's it.
And I think what some brilliant marketer was able to figure out that they could use that on an anti-litter campaign very effectively. And,
that's right.
And I think it worked. And I think don't mess with our bays is probably another wrinkle of that we can.
Yep. Don't mess. Keep it going. I think you're onto something. I think you got to keep. Yeah, I think you can rekindle it. Cool. Well, tell me this, Allan. I want to just circle around, make sure we don't miss anything. So today we've talked about a few big things, some awesome stuff you're working on. Anything else you want to shed light on for people listening that you have going that you don't want to let those folks miss out on?
No, I have a strain of the Chamber of Commerce in me. This is a great place. Mid-Texas coast is a great place to. I think it's a great place to live because obviously I live here, but it's a great place to visit especially if you're a fisherman or if you're a birder. This is great birding habitat as well. The weather is good except during September.
Right. What's the weather like right now? Today it's January right now. What is it like there today?
55 degrees and the sun is shining.
Yeah, so 55 and sunny. So it's a great
day. And it's a little windy. I would be fishing today if it were not quite a little bit windy today, but to be out in the water. But the winters here are quite nice. We have cold snap that lasts several days, and the wind blows for a while, but then it warms up and comes back. The winters are quite good. The summers can be challenging just because it's hot and humid, but the weather's good. But it's a great place to visit. And this area is because of that, is growing rapidly. We have people that live in Houston or live in Austin or San Antonio that have second homes here to play, and they also come visit. They come rent to fish, and they use fishing guides and fishing bait to drive our economy. So come. Because when you come, respect our bays.
Yeah, we will.
Don't mess with our bays.
Don't mess with our bays.
So
yeah, this is going to be awesome. No, I'm excited and hopefully I'll be able to meet you down there, when we put this together.
No.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So, well, let's take it out here. We're going to take it out here pretty quick. We love to do a shout out, and obviously we're doing a shout out to a conservation group and, kind of the partnership that you have going here. Who else would be another shout out you might give? Are there any other groups kind of locally, regionally, or nationally that you think we should check in with or that you guys work with?
I have a sister organization that's the Matagorda Bay. Their name is the Matagorda Bay Foundation, who tries to do for Matagorda Bay what we do here.
Gotcha.
As well.
And where's Matagorda Bay from San Antonio Bay?
It is just north, just up the coast from San Antonio Bay.
Oh yeah, it's the big one, right? So it's actually bigger than San Antonio Bay.
Yeah. Well, it has, I don't know what the surface acreage are, but it's comparable. It's fed by the Colorado River and the Lavaca Navidad River are its big watersheds. And where the San Antonio Bay system is the Guadalupe and San Antonio rivers that feed it.
Oh wow, right.
Each of these systems, the state kind of organizes its bay systems around estuaries and rivers that feed it. And so the Matagorda Bay system is Colorado River and Lavaca River, and the San Antonio Bay system is Guadalupe and San Antonio rivers that provide the freshwater influence. We share past Cavallo, the connection to the Gulf, with the Matagorda Bay system.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a common system there.
I see. Yeah, the more you describe it, it sounds really awesome. I mean, there's so many connections here, like the Guadalupe, right? That's like a famous. Not only we talked redfish, but you have some pretty good freshwater there.
Yes, I mean the people for Guadalupe bass. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never fished for them. Maybe I've tried that one these days.
There you go. Yeah, you got so much going on there. You don't even have to leave your home water and go very far because, I mean, again, redfish is one of those species. You think about all these species: muskie, steelhead, Atlantic salmon. Redfish is one of those. It's on the list, right? It's up
right
there with. Why is that? Why do you think redfish is such a destination species that people want to go for?
I think the thing that thrills me is seeing them in shallow water.
Yeah,
they're big. They can be big fish. You can catch them 28, 30 inches up in the shallow water. You see them. They're aggressive. They're pretty aggressive at feeding. But it's just the setting of seeing them walling around up there in 6 inches of water, and you got to put your fly on top of them without spooking them. So it's a real hoot to actually fish them.
What's their biggest predator? I'm guessing the dot on the tail is kind of a counter coloration thing for predators. Is there what's their biggest natural predator there?
I would guess when they're younger, I would guess that I don't know. I don't know who any kind of juvenile fish is probably eaten by
all sorts of stuff.
All sorts of stuff, and so I don't know. That's an interesting. I've asked a fish biologist that question.
Yeah, we'll have to check in. We'll have to check in on an upcoming. We're going to do more of this, so this will be good.
Yeah, ask the Bay Flats people. They probably
I will.
They know the answer to that question.
I will. Well, in fact, we have the episode with them is this week as well. So yeah, they will have it.
You were asking about other things that do conservation work. The organization, the state that I work with a lot, that is key to our health is the coastal fish, Texas Parks and Wildlife coastal fisheries people who manage each of these bases. They're responsible for collecting the data. They have all these data collection programs that help us keep track of
right. Population levels and stuff.
Populations, et cetera, and help and adjust the regulations to make it so that this wouldn't work without their efforts to do that. They get blamed for lots of stuff, but their protocols and their programs are essential to the health of the bay. And so they're government agencies and lots of like we're a NGO, we're nonprofit, but we couldn't do what we do without their support.
Right.
And so that would a shout out to them.
Yeah, love it. No, that's a great shout out. I think that that's great to hear. And I'm going to give one more shout out because in your neck of the woods, we're helping Bo at the Texas Fly Fishing and Brew Festival, which I think is north of you, but he's got his event coming up, which I think is actually going to be, when this episode goes out, I think it's the weekend of the release date of this episode. So if people are listening now, shout out to Bo. Go check out the Texas Fly Fishing and Brew Festival. That's going to be awesome. Well, what about in a couple of last ones, Allan, before we get out of here? Let's talk fishing. We haven't talked fishing all day. What's your one redfish tip when you're out there? I know you don't do a lot of fly fishing, but what is your tip to help somebody if they're thinking, man, they want to catch a redfish or have more success? What would you tell them?
You're not asking me to tell them my favorite fishing hole, are you, Dave?
No holes. We're not spot birded here, but give us just a tip. Like when you're out there and you have success, what is it? Why are you having success?
I think in terms of review, obviously picking the time and place is important. But when you're on the water, you have to pay attention. You have to tune in. You have to tune in and watch. Look at the bay. So that's the biggest thing. Just kind of forget everything else.
Yeah. Observe.
Be looking. Observe the water. Observe the wrinkles in the water. Observe the wakes. Observe what the birds are doing. You just got to tune in different than what you normally do in your general daily life. Forget everything. Just look for the redfish. And
look for the redfish.
Look for the redfish and look for the things that look different.
That's a good tip.
I guess that's probably this is pay attention.
Yeah, pay attention. No, I love it. Love it. Perfect. And I've got a couple of random ones here. So sports, I'm always interested because I kind of followed sports for a while. Are you a sports fan? I know San Antonio, the Spurs are up there, and they were a great team. Do you have a sport?
I probably follow Houston Astro baseball closely.
Oh, baseball. Yeah. Awesome. Did you play sports, or what would be the sport if you would have gone pro in? What would
way back in my youth, I played high school sports and then the intramural sports after that, but football and baseball were my two favorites. As I've aged, but I probably appreciate baseball more than anything else. And
yeah. What position did you play in baseball?
I was a second baseman.
Oh, second base. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, baseball was one of my sports too. So
I never could hit a curve very well.
Oh, right.
So couldn't play, wouldn't bat, and wouldn't fast enough to play. But it was fun.
It was fun. Definitely. This is great. No, awesome. And one last one here, the kayak. You mentioned you fish out of a kayak. What's the brand, or what is a kayak you love to use out there? And then talk about maybe, is that easy to do, catch redfish out of a kayak?
No, it's not easy to do. I find it is effortful. I guess I fish out of, believe it or not, I fish out of a homemade kayak.
Oh, wow.
But it is a homemade kayak that is styled around a touring kayak that was built. It's Eddie Line is the one that.
Oh, Eddie Line, yeah.
I think it's on the West Coast somewhere.
Sure. Oh, yeah, we know Eddie Line. Yeah.
Anyway, but I bought that kayak, 20 years ago, just to paddle in. But I started fishing out of it. But it has an enclosed cockpit that makes it difficult to get in and out of in the shallow water, et cetera. So I essentially, with a friend, made a fiberglass version of that and cut the cockpit out so I can sit in. And so I can get in and out of it. So it paddles a lot better than most of the fishing kayaks around here are broader, they're stabler, they're broad and stable, and they can carry lots of gear on. But I kind of take a different strategy. I want mine to be easier to paddle, and I don't take much gear. So I go light, and I can paddle this thing in shallow water looking for fish. And if it's in shallow water sets, I can drop my foot off the side and stop the boat like your fly fishing polling guide can do. so you can see the fish and try to catch them. So I've just enjoyed doing that. But one of the difficulties is you're sitting down pretty low, and it's difficult to see the fish.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes, and so a lot of times when you see them, it's too late.
Oh, right. But can you stand up? So you can't stand up in it at all?
I can't. Not in my boat.
Not in your boat. Yeah, that's one of those things you see. Yeah.
Yeah, but if I find fish and the bottom is lets me, I get out and wade. So I'll get out.
Oh, nice.
And wade fish, and so
there you go.
I paddle till I see them, and then if the bottom lets me, I'll get out and wade. If not, you're subject to the wind. Some people, I don't carry an anchor. I mean, I believe in simplicity, and so part of the challenge is just me and the fishing pole and a couple of lures and paddle around till I see an area that looks good, and then I slow down or get out if I start seeing fish that I'm not seeing soon enough from the kayak. I stand up and wade. You can see them a lot better.
Right.
But with on a fly fishing trip, if you're with the guide here on the bow of the poling skiff and you're standing up higher, and the guide's up another 6 or 8 feet, they see a lot better. But that's part of the challenge of is trying to see them before they see you.
That's it. No, I love it because that's the cool thing about it, and I think that it's the challenge. That's part of it. If it was easy, probably it wouldn't be as fun, right?
Yeah, and the good thing about paddling, I can, if the fishing is slow, I paddle and birdwatch, and you see all kinds of things out there in that shallow water, whether it's stingrays or whatever it is. So it's a more natural outing to me than that. And like I said, I use my boat to get my kayak close to my fishing area. So I don't have to paddle 3 hours to get out there. I'll take, run 20 minutes in my boat, and I'll launch my kayak, and I fish till I'm done. I don't fish out of my boat. So
that's right. Yeah, and you're getting some exercise, right? Paddling.
Yes, it is. You do to get that. So it is effortful, but the best things in life aren't free. So.
Sounds perfect. All right, Allan. Well, I think we'll leave it there. We'll send everybody out to sabaypartnership.org if they want to connect. And like you said, either maybe donate some money or find some events you guys are working on. Those are two easy things people can connect with. But I just want to thank you for your time today. Appreciate the great work you're doing, and excited to hopefully maybe see you in person down there and keep in touch.
I look forward to seeing you, David. Seeing you down here, and and thank the Bay Flats Lodge people for connecting us. They're good folks, and they've been very supportive of our programs as well. So
that is a wrap. You can grab all of the show notes at wetflyswing.com, and please follow us on Instagram and share this episode out with someone you love. Please send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, if you have any feedback or want us to put together an episode on this podcast for you. Check in anytime. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and would love to meet up with you on the water. We have new fly fishing schools going all year long and all around the country, so if you want to connect, let's do it right now. All right, time to get out of here. I hope you have a great evening. I hope you have a great morning or great afternoon wherever in the world you are. And I appreciate you for stopping by and checking out the show today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.